Within the first month, your average visits went from 0 to like 65.42 visits, and then it jumped to like 185, and then it jumped to 234 on average in the first 3 months. Everyone, this is Casey Carroll with Action Advertising Agency, and this is a testimonial video that I'm very, very excited to have Dr. Dustin Weber in Florida. So this is a story that he has actually grown more than any of our other clients that we've ever had within the first year, let alone the first 7 months. And the numbers you're going to hear from him are going to be absolutely insane. And so I'm very excited to have him share his story with you guys as well. But Dr. Weber, appreciate you chatting with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your experience. So I know, your very first month open, and the very first month you actually started with us. So you opened with us, or you started with us as you were also opening your practice at the same time,
Right. Yeah.
which was the very first month was September of 2021.
Right.
And within the first month, your average visits went from 0 to like 65.42 visits, and then it jumped to like 185, and then it jumped to 234 on average in the first 3 months. You were the first client to go from 0 to 100 fastest compared to anyone else out of our roster. 0 to 100 to 200 faster than anyone else. You did that in your third month. And then by the time that April of 2022 hit, so it wasn't even like, it was like 7 months, your average had actually reached 420 visits a week, which is absolute insanity. And I wanted to just get some feedback from you and get your, what was that like? I mean, what was it like when you opened up with us? How much do you think marketing, our advertising, and also the stuff that we work with you on sales process and the report card and all that stuff, how much of that do you think played a role in helping you be so successful? And share any secrets that you think might be useful to other chiropractors who are watching this.
Sure.
That might be able to kind of also mimic, maybe some of your results as well.
Sure. Well, we tried to integrate everything that your portal, the advertising, pretty much from day one. The goal was to, you do everything you can to get from 0 to 100, because if you can get to 100 patient visits, then you can start paying your bills and take a little bit of the stress off. It's like, in a baseball game, getting a 3 or 4 run lead going into the middle to late innings. It takes a lot of pressure off of you, and then you're allowed to kind of grow, if you will, or play a little less stress-free. I mean, it's still all stressful, but it's like you were saying, having the processes in place. I early on in my career, high volume was what I naturally gravitated to. Everything based on the adjustment, and then therapies and things like that we need as we go. And so I've got a good base as far as learning the high volume procedures, because you can't put that kind of time and effort and money into marketing and then not have the processes and procedures to get, one, the patient called, two, scheduled timely. And our goal is to get them scheduled that day or the next day within 24 hours, and then be able to process the new patient, still see your existing regular patients. And I know early on we didn't have a ton, but you don't want your loyal customers that have bought care plans, come in referred, sitting there waiting on you for an hour while you're doing exams. So everything we did, we had the procedures in place before we went full tilt with everything. And we did a week of a soft opening. We basically took over the office and then started practicing right away. So we started seeing patients immediately. But once we had all of our policies, staff training and whatnot, that's when we went 100% with the marketing. And the marketing, it was a little bit of a learning curve, but it wasn't much. I mean, you guys had everything laid out. Really, it took me and my staff, I don't know, maybe an hour over lunch to kind of, they went through the videos and whatnot, but we did that, and we did some live training and stuff like that. And it didn't take us long to integrate what you were doing on the marketing side, to integrate it into what we were doing. And so, honestly, it was just a matter of keeping up with the new patient flow. So there were days where I would see between 15 and 18 new patient visits
in a day.
In a day, and we were doing that. I mean, the first 3 months it was that, and it probably only slowed down because we started spreading it out a little bit. we started incorporating Saturdays fairly early just to get past that new patient hump, if you will,
Mhm.
and get built up. And so, I mean, we were seeing, oh, probably anywhere from 35 to 40 new patient visits every week, just for the first, I don't know, until, I mean, we could still see 30 plus a week right now if I wanted to. And I think we'll probably, last week we did 25. The week before that we did 31. I mean, it's
New
all
patients?
new patients. Yeah. Now, some of those are soft wave patients. So they're doing soft wave only at the moment, but almost all of those have converted to chiropractic care too, and vice versa. A lot of our patients come in for chiropractic only. We find a disc injury and we can work them in. And so I think that's probably another aspect that where you can gain some momentum early. Like I'm just going out there. I'm not selling them anything. I honestly, I just tell them it's basically like you're coming to the restaurant. When somebody comes to your restaurant, you expect them to buy something. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not selling them. I've got a menu and they make their choice based on the available menu, if you will.
Yeah.
And so, some patients need just adjustment. Some people need decompression. Some people need soft wave. Some people may need referred out. And you have to have procedures in place to be able to handle all that, because it can be confusing to have all those variables.
Yeah. Now, how many of your patients are full-blown actual care plans versus like a pay-per-visit kind of structure?
Very few pay-per-visit. It's, if they're not in wellness, they're on some sort of payment, some sort of care plan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got those, but I would say if you took out just wellness, which we have care plans for wellness, I mean, we're probably 70% care plans, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, some of my long-term established patients, they're now pay per visit, but we try to have a plan for everything. The way I tell the patients is my philosophy is wellness. So I try to get them out of active care as quick as possible without them going backwards. And then we try to convert to maintenance, because the idea is, not trying to always have to hustle to get new patients. It's to maintain and love and work on the ones that you have, so they have a lifetime of fitness and wellness. And so, that's my philosophy with the clinic.
Yeah, agreed too. And it's interesting, like what's really fascinating about you is the fact that you mentioned process. That's something that we really do talk a lot about. And sometimes people are like, okay, I just need new patients. I just need new leads. You send us leads and we'll take care of the rest. But then what happens is it turns into a leaky bucket situation where we're just putting all these new patients in, but they're not doing a great job at actually getting commitment or buy-in from the patients. They're not wanting to stick around to finish the entire care plan. They're getting phantom closes because they get people that they think are actually closing, but then they're not really making them commit to their own goals, for that matter, by asking them or putting them on some kind of a care plan that allows you to both hold each other accountable in that situation.
Yeah.
And then they fall out the bucket. They start complaining about bad leads, all that kind of stuff. I mean, we were running an incredibly strong offer for you for like almost an entire year straight. And did you see a lot of like quote unquote lead quality issues by running a low priced offer? Or were you, I mean, you grew your practice from 0 to 400 and, with a $19 offer, essentially, basically almost an entire year. So what was your experience like with these patients?
I mean, there was definitely the way I looked at each and every lead was that even if they only come once, that was an opportunity for me to find something. If there was something that it was a way for somebody that didn't have access to healthcare to be able to go in. And I'm not afraid to tell the patient the truth. Like if, early on in my career, I'd be afraid to tell somebody they need 12 visits or 18 visits, or if it's a really bad disc, 30 plus. Now I don't have that pressure, and I'm comfortable in my own skin enough to tell the patient, like, I'm just a casual observer of the facts. Like we found this solution. You see it right here on X-ray. I give them a game plan to get well. The girls give them a financial game plan, and we try to make it work. And then there's just some people that they may not be able to afford care right then and there. But the philosophy is we make it easy for them to come in, we make it easy for them to leave, and we make it just as easy to come back anytime they're ready. And so, again, my thought process is I'm going to find, if it's just that one time, at least they got the truth and they know what's going on. So when they have either the time or the means, they can address it, properly. And hopefully that's with us, but at least they know what's going on and are not in the dark. And in the same vein, yes, we did have a lot of patients that were just trying that $19 offer, and it can be, challenging, especially with those kind of numbers. But, it's a lot of those patients that only came once or twice, I still see now. They'll come in 2 or 3 or 4 times and they refer. So I have one patient, she's only seen me once, and she's probably referred me 10 of her family and friends.
Wow.
And she still refers. I send almost every month, I send her a handwritten note like we do all patients that refer that says, thank you for sending your friends and family in. So, what does that lead cost? What is the calculation of that over the life of that $19? So now I will say, when we upped the offer a little bit, it did knock down our new patient numbers maybe by about 10 or 15%. So it did kind of take out a few of the like tire kickers, or just somebody that just wanted to try it out because they seen it on TikTok, that did, but I mean, it didn't really change the equation much. I mean, quite honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and your cost per lead did definitely go up a little bit. And that's usually what we end up seeing by raising the price. It may drop out some of the tire kickers, but then also lead volume kind of starts to drop. And realistically speaking, like regardless of what the price is at or how many leads you get, it's really what where the rubber really meets the road is what happens with those leads once they come into your office, and then what happens with the sales process. I'm a big believer that advertising in the absence of having a really good process, and I really like the fact that you mentioned you actually practiced all your processes. You went through all these scenarios before you started running ads.
And we still practice. Practice. Yeah.
And that's huge. I mean, a lot of doctors are sometimes like, hey, I just want to get new patients, and then they just replace the patients that are leaving because they're not doing a great job of taking care of their existing patients. And a lot of these doctors sometimes, when they're looking at sales in particular, they're looking at sales as if they need to get to yes, versus as trying to find something you can help for somebody, giving them the solution, trying to be able to articulate how it's going to be able to help them achieve the goal that they said they want to get as an ideal outcome, and then letting them make a decision. And that's something I really found very interesting about what you just shared, because a lot of people look at sales as getting to yes versus as getting to a solid yes or a solid no, versus instead just a maybe, which is something that's not really great you can't learn anything from maybe,
Maybes don't pay the bills either, and they don't get people
for sure.
I will say, like, you got it is a skill to see that kind of a volume, and you have to work on it. Case example, in my own office, my associate, he pretty much took, when we first brought him on, he pretty much took on every single new patient. So, we tried to get him built up as fast as he can without burning him out. But, even after a year, he could never get over 150 patient visits because, his own procedures, adjustments and things like that. He just couldn't get past that plateau. And, we both kind of banged our heads on the wall and trying to figure it out. And it's a skill too. He didn't necessarily come from high volume. And so coming from, like say a personal injury office where they see 10 or 15 patients a day, and then they've got an hour of paperwork afterwards or whatever it is, that's a harder transition. So, those docs in those situations, it's you got to kind of retrain and just kind of bust it. The other thing I see is like, not a knock on the other doctors. Everybody gets to can practice the way they want to, but in the chiropractic world, it's just like the dental world. You just can't get your degree and then make unfathomable amounts of money like a medical doctor. It's just not how it works. Like, you're a business owner and you have to go out and if you work for somebody the same way, you have to go out and build relationships and work really, really hard, not just on the practical side, but your personal side too. You have to be pleasant with people. You have to be patient. You have to be kind. You have to be understanding is the big one. So like, if you know that patient's coming in and they're a tire kicker and you don't give them the best experience ever, Like, I mean, you probably saw where our 5-star reviews went. They went from 0 to over 300 5-star reviews in 6 months. And almost all of those were after the first visit. And almost all of those were from patients that were marketed in. And so,
Mm,
if that, even if they didn't come back, they left me a 5-star review. I mean, what's that? What's the cost per lead on that? You can't calculate
yeah.
that. But people are reading that.
100%. Yeah. Now, I know like for the first 7 months for you to go from 0 to 400, which is an unfathomable like that growth is crazy to see. Were you doing any other marketing except for what you were doing with us?
Oh, just you guys.
Wow. So that is awesome. But also it's really like it's not just the advertising, really. I mean, like we can have a conversation all day long about how great Facebook advertising is, but there's doctors like you who are able to extract a lot of value out of it, and then there's doctors who consistently seem to struggle and they never seem to understand it, and then they always want to blame lead quality for the reason why, but it's really process and how you treat patients. I mean, like I think that's, all we're doing is we're creating conversations and opportunities and helping doctors create an experience with a new patient that they've never had before. And it's up to the doctor to be able to ensure that experience is world class, it's high quality, and also that you genuinely care about helping these individuals and then giving them exactly what they need to hear versus what they want to hear. And being able to, at least let them make a decision based on data like that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Like they have to have a great experience, and a lot of times they're coming in and they're in really high pain levels, and they see that they're coming in and marketing, and you treat them different than a referred patient. That just doesn't work, and they sense that, and it's also a gratitude thing. Like, yeah, it was. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but it was challenging seeing that many new patients early on. But I was very, very grateful because these people spent their money and their time to come to my brand new office. And at that time, nobody knew me from anybody else in town. So what made me different, So my thought was, well, I'm going to treat every single patient as if they were my family member, and it was a matter of life or death that we figured out what was going on with their health, which, with every patient, that's the way I look at it, because how many times, you probably heard from other chiropractors, how many times they're adjusting and the patient will come in and say, I was seriously considering doing this. I was going to go down the route of illicit drugs to help solve the pain, overdose, this, that, and the other. I mean, you probably heard those stories, and you don't necessarily hear those until the patient comes and tells you. So you got to take it serious. And again, yeah, it's challenging, but what goal isn't going to be challenging? If it was easy, we'd all be chiropractors making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one final question I have for you is for all the doctors who are watching this video that are listening to your story, that are, that they're hearing about us. They don't know if we're legit or not. They don't know, if our results are going to be consistent with them. They don't know if we would be a good investment for them, whether they're a new office or an existing office or whatnot. And they're not even sure if they want to even take the next step to chat with us or even give us a shot in the first place. For those doctors who are on the fence, who aren't really sure if they ever want to even go down the path with us, what would you tell those doctors that are kind of not sure?
Well, I've been through every type of marketing, everything from guerrilla marketing to paid marketing with about every agency you can think of, either with my clinics or when I ran other people's clinics. And I would say, your organization, I'm a text message away from, if something happens or I need something, you and your team, I've never had to wait for a reply. Anytime I've had an issue, it's been addressed immediately. You guys do what you say you're going to do, which is, in the business world, is paramount, because if I call you and I talk to you, your team, and I said I need this and this and this done, and you say sure, no problem, I'm just going to move on because I've got other things I got to deal with. And so I've been very impressed with your procedures, like, especially early on with the new office, like as organized as you guys are right off the bat. So you have training for staff, so I can just say, here, get to training and figure it out. And they've got the Google Sheets that help with the phone call. All that stuff is all lined out. So I've not had many agencies that have been as organized and as process oriented and goal oriented. You guys are you guys seem to have been as excited or more excited for my goals and progress and for me to hit stuff than I was. I obviously I'm deep in the trenches and sore at me from doing all those exams and whatnot and paperwork, but it was really nice on some of those days, like just to be like, get that text, be like, hey, I just saw your numbers, man. That's great. That's awesome. So, the encouragement, because, if I'm doing well, you're doing well, and things like that. So, and I'd say the other aspect, and this is the biggest lesson that I learned from my first clinic that I owned, is I messed up and stopped advertising over time. They got to this point where I was comfortable with, and I thought, okay, well, it'll just keep growing from there. And to some extent, it's true. But then when you 3 other clinics that open up next to you, well, if those patients don't know you, they're going to go to the most likely, or the first person they see, first page or 2 on Google, they see. The investment, what I've spent on advertising is in what I've gotten return. You couldn't get that in the stock market, even if you were Warren Buffett or you went back in time and knew what was going to go up and what was going to go down. So you know what I mean? Yeah. So I know that was a long answer, but that's, I'll just say I'm very grateful that I found you guys and all the hard work you've helped put in with my clinic. And it's definitely changed my clinic and my family and my staff's, financial life, and it changed our community and things like that, because now there's a place somebody can come to, and it doesn't take them 2 to 3 weeks to get in and get seen, which is another aspect to our growth, is always being available.
No, I love hearing that too. And we do genuinely get a strong kick out of, because I'm a big believer in creating a company that really genuinely cares about the outcome of the clients that you take on as well. And whenever clients are having great success stories, it fires us up too. I mean, we love hearing those stories, because it also, in many ways, it gives us a sense of like happiness of knowing that all the hard work that we put on our side to try to build systems and try to build all of our training that we give to clients and all the tracking that we do around goals and the report card that we track every single month to know where things are at with schedule rate, no-show rate, close rate, and all that other stuff. Like, it gives us like positive feedback of knowing that all that hard work, all the hours of dedication that we put in behind the scenes to make sure that we were able to create these things for doctors to help them with the gaps that they had, that it was actually working. And so, and as you know, like, we celebrated, we'll actually send you belts too for people who are watching this. We've got this thing called the Dojo, and I know you've been collecting. I think you've got 4 belts from us now.
I think so. I need that black belt.
I know, exactly, right? Like, keep working on that. I'm sure we'll get you to that black belt status as well. But Dr. Weber, I really appreciate you chatting with docs today, and also chatting with me as well. And for everyone who's watching this, if you have any sort of question whatsoever about whether or not we're legit, feel free to watch this video. I can't promise we're going to get results like we have with Dr. Weber, because his results are not normal by any stretch of the imagination. But if you listen to the stuff he says, if you really implement a lot of the stuff that he recommended today, and also add that with the advertising side and process, I'm sure you could also get a great outcome as well. So Dr. Weber, I really appreciate you chatting with me today.
Appreciate you. Yeah, thanks, Casey. I appreciate you and your team.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good one.
Thank you.